The results of last week's presidential election in the Central African Republic are slowly trickling in. So far, the vote counting has former Prime Minister Faustine Archange Touadera leading, followed by another former Prime Minister, Anicet Georges Dologuele. However, 2/3 of the 30 candidates vying for the presidency are demanding the authorities hold the vote tabulations because of what they say were irregularities in the ballot. The protest by the candidates could mean the final result is contested, but it may seem by some voters as a last outcry by people who see their candidates' chances of winning the election slipping away. Well, for more on the election situation, I'm joined by VOA reporter Tatiana Mossot, who has just returned from the Central African Republic. Hello, Tatiana.
Hi.
A good job you did over there. But let's now focus on this incoming results. What is the trend? What are they up to this moment? Do we still see a projection of this guy winning? This guy was not as well known.
They are only 25% of the result which were published already, which is, let's say, nothing compared to what we are expecting.
Yeah.
But this guy, at the beginning, Mr. Touadera, he's like the surprise, the big surprise of these elections. And there were like 30 candidates. We were thinking about 5 candidates, 5 big candidates, and it wasn't, he wasn't supposed to be one of the 5.
Yeah.
But the job he did in several regions of Central Africa was strong, and it's looked like from the beginning of these results, he's one of the winners.
Now, could you say that there is some legitimacy in those who are saying perhaps there should be a recount, that perhaps there were irregularities?
They have irregularities, which is not really a surprise, only because the way they were preparing elections, but it was something everybody were afraid of and they were aware of it. It doesn't mean that all the result will not be verified and fair.
Yeah.
We are still waiting to see the end of the process. Yeah. But what we can say now is that the candidates, from the beginning, they said it will be too short. We need to postpone election until January the 3rd. But it's looked like
why was it? Why was there a big hurry to conduct and conclude this election if the conditions on the ground were not favorable?
It's looked like international community who put so much money, so much effort on Central Africa. They wanted to have elections. They wanted to get stability as soon as possible, even if all the conditions are not enough, even if the government, the transition government, is not able to give all the skills and all the options to make sure.
But from what you heard on the ground, speaking with people, do they believe that just the elections per se would be enough to bring stability and peace in Central Africa?
I think we want to be optimistic, but to be honest, I think to be realistic, let's say that elections will not be enough. It's one step of the process to get stability in Central Africa, but it's not enough because you still have arms everywhere in the country, and people are looking for security, disarmament, and then we will be able to talk about politics.
So reconciliation is not necessarily, has not been achieved up to this point.
No, if you ask me if elections are enough for reconciliation, I will say it's just the first step.
That is if they accept those elections, if there's no dispute, because then again it can be the beginning of trouble. Well, Tatiana,
it could be.
Thank you very much for your
You're
perspectives. Thanks to Tatiana Mossot, who was reporting very excellently, really, from the Central African Republic.